It's your boy Crypto Blood. What's going on, people? Hope your weekends were relaxing, safe. I got a chance to go to my wife's friend, her parents' home. They have a nice pool, really next, right overlooking the lake. It was beautiful. So we were out there this weekend a little bit. Had a good weekend. The weather has been very, very warm for late summer, early fall. So I was talking to Truth Blitz about that. But hope your weekends were good. Today we're going to talk about, I got a chance over the weekend also, speaking of the weekend, I got a chance to, I don't know how many of you follow Perpetual Assets. Will, I love when Will does interviews with Jim Willie. And so I had a chance to not talk, but listen to the interview with Will from Perpetual Assets and Jim Willie. And so what I'm going to do is I listened to, it was two parts, about almost 2 hours in total. But I've got the second half is really what piqued my interest this time around, because Jim is talking about cryptocurrencies a little bit more than he has in the past. So some points he's really spot on, and I'm really excited to see Jim really start to grasp and understand cryptocurrencies and blockchain. And then there are a few points where I don't agree with Jim on, and we'll go through that. And I'm very impressed with Will. I didn't know Will was so well versed in the blockchain space as well. So that's good, man. I'm glad to see these precious metals guys, the ones at least I like, really catch on to this technology and see the use case for it. So let's see what we got here. So I'm going to pull this up, and we're going to start. Actually, before we even start, let me go through just kind of the breakdown of what was covered and kind of the notes that I took for this. So first off, I'm just going to run through all the points that we're going to go over in this video, and I'll just play the different clips of it. So one of the things that Jim talked about was cryptos being tied to commodities. He sees something like that happening. I guess kind of almost like Veritasium-esque, but he doesn't like or doesn't think that cryptos will be tied to things like sand, cement. Well, he didn't say sand explicitly, but I would assume he doesn't like that idea, because he didn't like the idea of grains like cement, other type of kind of commodities. He didn't see that really taking off. That's definitely one I'm not too sure I agree with Willie on. He also talked about blockchain and real estate. First thing that popped in my head was property, but of course there are a few out there. Proppy, we've got Rex, just to name a few. Also, he talked about lending, more so on the commercial side, but seeing blockchain technology being implemented and used within the lending field. So first thing I thought of was Salt. However, he was kind of he was on the point of commercial lending. So that, I don't know, that's kind of Salt. I think is more personal, but the concept of lending in general, Willie thinks is a good one. It's going to be a prosperous industry for blockchain. Also, he talked about Langley will basically throw a false flag that is related to Bitcoin. So some type of terrorist attack, and somehow Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies would be used within that, and that will kind of give them the leverage to slam it, give it a what he called a body slam. So that's interesting to see. Also, he sees that defaults of sovereign debts would be a trigger point for a use case for additional Bitcoin just use throughout the world. So I think we all agree with that and can see that being the case. The IMF also, he talked about IMF creating their own cryptocurrency. Crypto, it would be a centralized crypto. He feels that the IMF will try to position themselves in that manner. And no, it is not chain coin. Also, he talked about, actually, Will talked about Veritasium. So that was cool. And again, I see that Will is really doing his homework, and he's really getting into the space. So that's cool to hear. He dropped Veritasium and kind of explained that to Jim Willie. And last but not least, he talked about, and this was a big one, I did not agree with him at all on, Jim Willie that is, was the fact that he said that China banned Bitcoin because they wanted to protect their citizens. Man, I can't agree. I can't disagree with Willie much more, any more than I do on that one. So let's just go ahead and kind of get into let's get into the actual video. I'm going to start playing some clips here, and then we'll kind of pause and talk about each point. All right, so let's start here. We're going to start at and I'll leave a link to this video so you guys can check it out. Part 2 of it, at least. Part 1 is more so just about commodities and, you know, oil and stuff like that. So gold and oil. So we're going to start here at the let's just start right about here.
Or like, say, a basket of commodities for crypto, you know, like a mix of oil, iron, copper, platinum, the non-precious metal. And there might be, I don't think we're going to see cryptocurrencies with grain or cement or lumber. That's a little bit iffy. Where I see the blockchain making very big strides are in 3 areas. You know, I'm not an expert in this, but I'm trying to use whatever expertise I have in finance economics to see where could this have inroads. And I'm thinking mortgage bonds. Just look at that MERS, Mortgage Electronic Registry System.
Yep.
That was loaded with fraud and double usage of secure streams for mortgages in more than one bond, and, you know, title switching with the sale of bonds or the breakup of the components of a bond. Okay, that was one gigantic store of crime. It would not have lasted 2 months if it were built in the blockchain back in 2003 or 2.
True. I agree with you.
And it all exploded with Lehman in 2008. Okay, so mortgage bonds and all the secure stream and title connections.
Gotcha.
That's one. Here's another one.
Jim, before you go further, could you see that title registry extending into, say, stocks, securities, land as well, and other asset classes?
Well, sure. That's natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Willie definitely gets it. He's getting the concept, business use cases for blockchain. As Will kind of mentioned, definitely we will see, but it won't be from Wall Street. It'll have to be from like a third-party private company that will kind of spearhead that initiative to to have all of the stocks and equities placed on a triple ledger type of system. Because why would Wall Street want to give up their phony, what we want to call rehypothecation of equities and shares of different companies? Maybe some of you don't know, but that stock that you purchase is, let's say, from TD Waterhouse or E-Trade or Charles Schwab, any of those brokerage houses. That stock is actually not even, it's almost just created. It's been said that each share is rehypothecated about 2 to 3 times over. So there are about 3 or 4, 2 to 3 shares or copies of any equity that you think you have, because really there's supposed to be a certificate that is associated with every share that you purchase. However, with high frequency trading and electronic trading, you no longer get that, and there's no ledger for that now. So there are more outstanding shares of stocks than there really are supposed to be, essentially, is what I'm saying. So let's go. I'm going to go to the next key point, and in this part he talks about lending, commercial lending. So let's hear what he has to say about that. Just give me a second here.
With some natural steps. The third area, I'm not an expert in these things, but I'm thinking commercial loans.
Because of the complexity again?
Pardon me?
Because of the complexity again and the overall size of that marketplace as well?
Yeah, the complexity, it involves collateral. It involves valuations of collateral. It involves terms of payment. Involves maybe alternative forms of payment. Involves convertibility to bonds. Involves convertibility to stock. I mean, I just saw a really interesting.
So again, that's I definitely see that with blockchain. So kudos to Jim on that one as far as lending. And again, one application that we all know, pretty much, if you're following me, I'm sure you're aware of the Salt lending platform, which is attempting to take your crypto assets and use those as collateral, allowing you to get loans in fiat based on your crypto collateral, or your crypto being used as collateral. So the next point here, we're going to talk about, Willie talks about Langley using Bitcoin or a terrorist attack to trigger, to be that trigger point, that trigger event to really body slam Bitcoin. So let's take a look at that piece there.
Langley will use, will execute, will use the terrorist angle.
Gotcha. Like the old Silk Road, right? So they're now going to. So the blockchain itself, it's an open source platform. It can't be hacked, and even if by some crazy, they were able to infiltrate it and hack it, it would become known. It would become known to all these thousands of independent nodes working, and it would be red flags everywhere. And so, and then just the next crypto would explode in usage. It already has infrastructure and logistics. I mean, there's 1,000 of them now. Very interesting, man. Yeah, but the U.S. could certainly have a massive crackdown, especially maybe after, I don't know, a huge terrorist attack on U.S. soil. They could say, "Oh my God, this was funded and with Bitcoin or some crypto, and we have to make Bitcoin illegal, close all the exchanges." Then it's just all going to be offshore. I mean, you'll have all the U.S. investors will just switch to offshore VPNs, which most of us are using now anyway, and we'll buy from the other exchanges. I mean, but you're right.
Check Will out.
Certainly is a threat to the monetary system, the global power structure, and to think that they're not going to. I mean, governments are embracing it in certain sectors across the world. I mean, the U.S. Customs Office accepts Bitcoin as payment.
I didn't even know
there's
that.
lots of different things like that happening across the world, but no, the cartel boys certainly is a big threat to them, and they can't come in with $1 billion and buy all of it either. That's
so good. So this one I kind of don't really agree with Jim on as far as the terrorist attack, simply because I mean they could use a terrorist attack to really be the catalyst to slam Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. We know that our government has used terrorist attacks or terroristic events in the past to kind of move and make laws and pass laws and such. But in this case, I don't think it will work. As Will said, if they ban Bitcoin, it will only actually, what will happen, in my opinion, as Will said, many of the companies will just move and set up shop in other Bitcoin-friendly countries, like Estonia, like Switzerland. However, if that happens, that will only make the price of Bitcoin skyrocket. So I really don't think they're going to come down hard on Bitcoin, because it's all about perception and managing perception with these guys. We see that with the Federal Reserve. Like, it's all about managing the perception of how well the economy is doing. And so how do they do that? Well, keeping interest rates low and essentially, allowing the stock market to just continue to rise. So your common people, your everyday worker or citizen is going to automatically associate a good economy with a high stock market price. So it's all about managing perceptions, right? So I don't think they are going to really go for that one. The next point is about central banks defaulting and Bitcoin kind of coming in to the rescue, essentially. So let's listen to that piece by Jim.
And their bonds, the default of their bonds, could bring about like a burned field loaded with nutrients, ready for cryptocurrencies and their decentralization of not just function, but maybe power. Imagine Social Security done, and Medicare, all done in blockchain. I have one grade school contact, and I remember their name. I'm not going to mention the name. And the girl who was in my brother's class had a younger sister who was a year before me in my sister's class.
Yeah, so that definitely agree with Jim on that one. Let me know your thoughts on that particular point. And I also want to go back and let you guys listen to, this was a really good one. This caught my ear. It was referring to the IMF and cryptos. So let's take a listen.
Which is decentralized.
Sure, absolutely.
IMF is going to try to push down our throats a centralized gold-backed cryptocurrency or something akin to that.
An SDR crypto, if you will.
An SDR gold-backed bond, that's another one that's not crypto, and it could have a crypto angle to it. I don't know. And my guess is that Basel will say the gold repository will be in Basel because we have experience. But their experience is with criminality.
Exactly.
Yep, he's right. Their experience is with criminality. This short one is really, this clip I'm getting ready to play is really just highlighting how much Will is entrenched into the crypto space now. So this is good to hear. He actually said, I don't know if this part is going to pick it up, but he talked about he not even having any Bitcoin presently. He's all into the different tokens and altcoins. So good for Will, man. That's awesome. So let's check out this part about Veritasium.
Just recently hard forked. I mean, there's been a lot of issues. Presently, I have a large for me, portfolio, and I own 0 Bitcoin, which you know, I love the technology, but just, you know, to give you an idea, there's so many Veritasium, for example, just throwing one out off the top of my mind because it has to do with open source financial trading and transactions. And Reggie's already got this thing set up with the Jamaican Stock Exchange where they're going to be
look at Will.
And again, have a model that's duplicatable to take elsewhere. I mean, you can get on these decentralized exchange platforms, Jim, and trade these cryptos with other people, like Ethereum ERC20 smart token coins, and it's completely decentralized.
Yep. So again, that's just showing the level of understanding that Will has over at Perpetual Assets. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So the last point I want to go over is Willie talking about China protecting their citizens from Bitcoin. That's what the ban was all about, and I have to definitely disagree with him on that one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below of this video regarding this point and also all the other points. Would love to hear your thoughts about that. Let's play this last one here.
About what I think might be going on with China, and this will be in my hat-trick letter report for September that I'm working on right now. I think China made a statement that they don't want their own citizens involved with Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies because they realize that Langley has their mitts in there and they're going to execute a body slam. And they don't want their citizens to be victims.
All right, so that's the last point that I wanted to highlight. I definitely have to disagree with Willie on that one. I do not believe that Langley is a part of, well, I should say, Langley is not the, they may have had a hand prior to or after the technology, the concept of Bitcoin came out, but because Bitcoin is open sourced, anyone can view that code, anyone can replicate it. I don't necessarily think they were directly behind it. If they were, let's say that they were, if they were behind it, it's to the point where it's out of their hands and it's gotten out of control, so they don't have control of the technology any longer. However, I don't think the CIA, i.e. Langley, would have an open source type of concept like this leaked out to the masses. So that's just kind of my 2 Satoshis on that, right? So the markets right now, looking at 3,700 for Bitcoin. Ethereum is sitting at what's that, 260, 280, and Litecoin is sitting at $52.26. OMG, looking good at $10.27. So that's my 2 Satoshis for today, ladies and gents. Let me know your thoughts on everything, and you know, we'll kind of go from there. I would love to hear hear your feedback on the video that I did today and all the stuff that Jim talked about. All right, so that's it. It's your boy Crypto Blood. Make sure you follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Steam it. And also catch me in that Webbot room that you see to the right. I think we are in the what room are we in right now? We're in the crypto Webbot room right now. So come check us out if you're not a member. We got Al Watts. I talked to him earlier. Bacon Chips, Mick, M Babs, think M. Babs is out of Canada, I believe. Yeah, Canada. I took a picture of Canada today, Windsor. So shout out to M. Babs. And that's pretty much it for today, ladies and gentlemen. It's your boy Crypto Blood. I am out.